So there have been a lot of hard things about this pandemic, and we've been talking for the last couple of weeks about some of the invisible vices that can attack us and make us sick, not just COVID. And some of those, I think, are sloth and anger. Those are a couple that I've been trying to battle. And I think one a little more recently here is envy, as I'm in a county that is called red, in a sea of yellow next to a state that is moving towards green. But there are some things that I think this situation has actually made easier to see. You may have heard of, some cities in India that are able to see the Himalaya mountains now for the first time in decades. I remember when I was a student in Pasadena and I moved out in August, and about a month after I moved there, it rained, and I said, hey, who dropped these mountains behind the campus? Sometimes a different situation allows us to see some things more clearly than we might have otherwise. I'd like you to think about the 7 deadly sins: anger, greed, sloth, lust, pride. I'm forgetting a couple which are probably the ones that I deal with, but gluttony. So just take a moment to turn off this video and fill out in order what you think the one is that you have the biggest problem with. I'll be here when you get back. Great. Okay. Kathy Keller, Tim Keller's wife and also an author in her own right, says greed is the one vice that nobody thinks they have a problem with. Because we can all think of somebody else who has more stuff than we do. But it's actually one of the more challenging vices that we need to deal with, and Jesus considers it to be that way. This comes out of Luke chapter 12. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" And then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And perhaps an even shorter way to talk about this is Luke 17:32. Remember Lot's wife. It's a great verse and a great image. The woman who turned into a pillar of salt when she looked back on her home city of Sodom and Gomorrah rather than run away with the angel. Greed is not so much about how much loot we have, it's about where it is that we're looking. Is our focus on the things of this world, or is our focus on the kingdom of God? I think these weeks have been showing us we can get by with far less than we think we need. I know that this period of time has reminded me of how much I love barbecue ribs, but I'm doing without, and we're doing some good things with chicken thighs. I love traveling the world, and I am going to miss that for as long as we can't do that. But a number of you have noticed that I've been visiting different spots in our house, and there's a lot to like and a lot to consider in some of those smaller spaces in our lives, not just geographically, but also spiritually. Taking a journey with the Lord into the interior places is actually one of the most exciting journeys we can do anywhere. So if you look at the poetry of somebody like George Herbert, or letters from Samuel Rutherford, who was a pastor who spent many years in jail, or somebody like Julian of Norwich or Teresa of Avila, Interior Castle. And I know these things are a little esoteric, but there are riches to be found in taking time to journey with God in the smaller places, and we'll find that they actually open up into wide places indeed. Just one final word on this issue of greed, to really put a stake through it. Take something that you have been tempted to hoard: toilet paper, disinfecting wipes, canned green beans, I don't know what it is, but take one of those things and give it to a neighbor or a food bank. You'll be amazed at the freedom that you feel in letting go and trusting God. Our music today, it's actually kind of hard to find music that deals with the issue of greed, surprise, surprise, but Caedmon's Call, this world has nothing for me, all that I could want, but nothing I need. It's a great song. And finally, we do get to Bob Dylan. He has a number of songs about greed. Blind Willie McTell, fantastic song. God bless you today.